Hi, it's Ed Dawson here. Now, link building has always been and continues to be a crucial part of the SEO jigsaw that you need to build authority and drive rankings in Google. And with the emergence of AI-based search like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Perplexity, the importance of links in getting your site cited in responses means that link building becomes of even greater importance. So I've grouped together all the best episodes of the podcast that touch on link building into a series dedicated to all the many strategies and tactics you can use to get more links to your content. So let's get on to the podcast. Hello and welcome to SEO is Not That Hard. I'm your host, Ed Dawson, the founder of keywordspeopleuse.com, the place to find and organise the questions people ask online. I'm an SEO, developer, affiliate marketer and entrepreneur. I've been building and monetizing websites for over 20 years and I've bought and sold a few along the way. I'm here to share with you the SEO knowledge, hints and tips I've built up over the years. Hi there, Ed here. Welcome to this latest episode of SEO is Not That Hard. Today I'm going to be talking about link building using ego bait. Now, ego bait, let's just define it to start with. Basically, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to generate links to our website by stoking or stroking other people's egos. So this is where instead of writing a piece of content and then hoping people will link to it without having anyone specific in mind, this is where we're actually going to look at creating some content which we're going to aim at a particular person or company or organization with the aim of getting those people or organizations to link back to our website. And we're going to do that by actually creating some content that is actually going to feature them in a way that's going to make them want to link back to us. So this is just playing on the fact that most people, if you talk about them, they're going to listen. I've had pages written about me or about my companies online, and whenever they come up, whenever I come across them, or whenever I'm introduced to them by the person who's written them, I'm going to pay attention in a way that I'm not going to any other content. And it's not just specific to me. I think everyone in the world, every company, every organization, every person is going to feel the same about that. So let's look at some different types of ego bait. The three types that I think work best are interviews, roundup posts, and awards. So let's sort of dive into each one. So the first of is interviews, right? So in this one, what you do is where you feature the influencer that you're trying to get a link from, and you interview them. This could be a podcast interview. It could be a one-on-one interview where you actually speak to them and write an interview, or it could just be where you send them a whole bunch of questions and ask them to reply back with written answers. Obviously, it depends on how well you know this person to get in front of them. But I think you'll find that most people like being approached for this kind of thing. So if you were to just contact them, however, and ask them what their favourite format is, then you're probably likely to get a response from them. And what you do is you come up with some good questions, hopefully thoughtful questions that helps tease out their expertise, helps them talk about themselves, and helps them promote themselves, essentially. And then you create an article, a post from that, put it on your website. Like I say, if it's a podcast, you might make a podcast out of it. And you might, from a podcast, also make a written transcript from that and create a written piece of content from that. I've certainly been interviewed on other podcasts where obviously I've been featured in the podcast, and then also they've subsequently created written content from that. Obviously, once you've got your interview post up and live with them, you obviously want to share it with them and say, "Hey, I've got the interview live. Thanks for doing it for us. Do you mind sharing it with on your website and with your followers?" And you'll find lots of times people are quite happy to do that. I've certainly shared across my socials and other places, anywhere that I've been interviewed, any podcast I've been on. So these things work really well, and there's no way I would have necessarily promoted those people's websites if they'd just come to me and said, "Will you promote my website?" for no reason whatsoever. Do a bit of ego bait, I'm straight in, and like you would be too. Now, a roundup post is very similar to doing interviews, except you're not just featuring one person. You're going to feature experts across your industry. And this is likely to be less in depth on that one person and more about a particular, say, trending topic or particular technical items, something like that, where you are going to get a range of people to quote across it. And obviously the great thing about this is you can essentially do the same things in interviews, but it's a bit more short form for each person who's been featured, less of a input required from them. It's more likely going to be just written responses rather than like a podcast type thing. But you get to cover more people, you get to stroke more egos, and therefore you're more likely to get more backlinks or more shares from these influencers, these people, these experts that you want to get recognition from. So similar, you'll have seen these things, I'm sure, that as you've come across web pages, websites doing this exact same thing. Then awards, the third one. Now this one, works better, I think, with companies than the first two. The first two tend to be very personal related. It's hard to interview a company. Obviously, you can approach a company founder, but it's hard to interview a company. Whereas a company, you can give an award to, and companies like to share awards. In fact, most awards that people enter and have to share, they actually pay to enter. There's businesses out there that make a whole living out of creating award ceremonies and then enticing people to apply. Often they have to pay to apply, and to get to the awards ceremony, they have to pay for a table. Essentially, it's just an events company that's sucking people in by giving out, creating awards categories and then getting people to come and pay to be at the overpriced seats at their awards ceremonies. If you don't pay for your table, don't get to go. And even paying for a table, you're not guaranteed to win anything. But that slightly digresses from using it for link building. If you're using it for link building, you might be looking at it slightly differently. And I think I've actually spoken about this on a previous podcast about how you can specialize in using awards as a way of gaining links and getting your other websites, sometimes even competitors to talk about. We used it with Bowman@UK, and we gave out awards for, let's say, the best supplier, the fastest supplier, the one with the best reviews, all those kind of things. And that's the kind of thing that can get those companies to link back to you, because if you've been given an award, they like to tell people, hey, we've been awarded this award, and they'll link back to you. So again, that's a way of stroking the ego of a company. Although awards also works fine for individuals as well. It works that much better with companies as well. Other types of ego bait include things like listicles, such as where you might do the top 50 SEO experts you should be following this year, where you can just list a whole load of people, and hopefully, you can either contact them directly and say, hey, you've been covered. Do you want to share it? Or, they might find it themselves. The more people you put in, you might find that they're less likely to want to sort of promote their competitors. Also, if they're too closely related to what you do, you might find that kind of thing isn't quite sophisticated enough for them. But it can work really well. And it's obviously a lot easier to put together than having to think about questions or do awards or, do that kind of level of effort. But because it's low effort, the reward might not be quite as great, but it's worth a try. And also directories. Directories can also be quite a good ego bait, especially if you're putting together very specific directories. So sometimes directories of, say, keyword tools. You might find that doing something like that, you might get keyword tool suppliers might link to you if you're covering their directory. But again, tends to be less effective than the ones where you actually try and get people's input into them or create very specific awards for them. But still, all those kind of things can be worth a try. But just to finish, the key thing with any ego bait is getting people on board with it. If you can get people on board to give an interview or to be interested in an award, getting people's input up front can really help, especially for those very specific ones where you're going to feature someone in depth. And then follow-up. The follow-up is really, really important, because if you don't ask people to link back to you or to share it with their audience, then they're not necessarily going to do it. So always follow up and just suggest, would you maybe consider sharing it? Don't make it a condition of doing the piece. If you don't want to make that condition up front, because it will put people off if you do that. But once it's been done, if you've covered people in a way that's nice to them, they like it, you've made them look good, just ask them to share it. You'll find they're more likely are, and you might like to get your link and your social shares, and that's why it's going to be worthwhile. So I hope that's been useful and given you maybe a new idea to think about when you're looking at doing link building. If you've got any questions, then do give me a shout. And yeah, look forward to seeing you next time. Before I go, I just wanted to let you know that if you'd like a personal demo of our tools at Keywords People Use, that you can book a free, no obligation, one-on-one video call with me, where I show you how we can help you level up your content by finding and answering the questions your audience actually have. You can also ask me any SEO questions you have. You just need to go to keywordspeopleuse.com/demo, where you can pick a time and date that suits you for us to catch up. Once again, that's keywordspeopleuse.com/demo, and you can also find that link in the show notes of today's episode. Hope to chat with you soon. Thanks for being a listener. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe and share. It really helps. SEO is not that hard. It's brought to you by keywordspeopleuse.com, the place to find and organise the questions people ask online. See why thousands of people use us every day. Try it today for free at keywordspeopleuse.com. To get an instant hit of more SEO tips, then find the link to download a free copy of my 101 quick SEO tips in the show notes of today's episode. If you want to get in touch, have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. I'm at Channel5 on Twitter. You can email me at podcast@keywordspeopleuse.com. Bye for now, and see you in the next episode of SEO is Not That Hard.